Okay, right about now. So I want to officially welcome you again to this segment of our programs. Today we're going to be having a very brief discussion, and then we have opportunity to know what is actually conspired between Russia and Ukraine. Um, by the look of things, we are a little bit conscious, and some people are a bit afraid of the escalation of the war in other part of the European country, like people like us and some people that are based here in Europe as well. But the most important thing that we have to look into is what really conspire, why the war, what is actually the problem between Ukraine and Russia, what really happened, and that's actually get to this level of war. These are the things that we have to put in considerations for us as well. So for those people that join us right now, this is Difficult TV, and also I go by the name, as you know, the Steel of the Wheel. Welcome, you can actually call me Mr. Ifeko. Okay, I've been listening to news, watching news, and some information actually got to us as well that that's a little bit scary, and it should be a very a public announcement to to everyone that is watching me right now, especially if you're based in Europe as well, because the way the things actually going now, it's actually attract a lot of attentions of escalation of war. Okay, now we knew that the Americans have actually sanctioned Russia, European sanctioned Russia, Australia, Japan, and other part of the world, UK as well. That you place sanction on Russia, but that sanction does not actually move Russia. It does not move the president, because no, I don't want to actually count all the blame on the president. So as a country, does not actually have any side effects to them, but definitely I believe that the economic is a little bit it's going down gradually. But the problem is that why the war, and why Russia invent Ukraine, and these are the things we're going to discuss, and these are the things we're going to give some basic of why and how this thing happened on the beginning as well. We know some years back we're talking about RCs, this all this country were all together, Serbia, Ukraine, what do you call it, Romania, they were all under Russia. We're going to Russia parliament, right? So at the look of things, I'm just going to break it down so that most African people were able to follow us and understand the reason why all this is actually happening right now as well. We know we Africans, a lot of us are actually, we call it our independence some years back, some country 20, some country 50, some country 60, some country like. But why are the European or the Americans or the UK people still have rights and have control over Africans, and also some of the part of Arab country? Okay, why are they still having authority, having right over those continent, those country? Like Africa now, all those francophone country, they are still making use of francs as their currency. And the country that actually colonized them, that is France, and no more using that currency. The currency has now, France is being printed, the currency I use now is being printed in France and actually distributed to them in those country. We are talking about freedom and all those, we call them people that colonize some of those part of Africa. They never want to leave Africa alone. They never want to actually give you guys freedom. They don't want you guys to have your own right. They doesn't want you guys to have your independent. Doesn't want. They just put this kind of independent in code, right? But the other sector, a section of our lifestyle, they are still under their control, right? Our financials under their control, so a lot of things under their controls. But why is that now? It happened between Russia and Ukraine, and all of them, they are just raising up their head over this issue. So just that this should actually sound wise to all African leaders, very important. Now, America want to come in, all European they want to come in, and the other neighborhood country they want to come in. They actually fighting. They want to fight for for Ukraine. They want to support Ukraine. They want to stand for Ukraine. They want to send troops for just to protect the Ukraine. Yes, I understand war is not actually welcome, but the problem that I'm just having now, what I'm trying to pick up from what I've listened, what I've saw right now is just that the white people, they are still having a very high oppression force in Africa, and our leaders, they have nothing to do. Okay, they talk about NATO. NATO want to come in. The reason why NATO are afraid to come in between Russia issue is just that because Russia is also one of the powerful country in the world, and we know Russia have this nuclear weapon that if they attempt to come in, that means that the war will not only the war will not only face what they call it Ukraine. The war will actually escalate to other part of the EU country. So these are their fears. Now the problem, I was listening to news. I have to follow this people one after the other. They say because Ukraine is under the covering of NATO. Okay, Libya was not under any NATO, but the NATO invented Libya. Okay, they killed Gaddafi. They invented just the way Putin is trying to invent he's trying to invent Ukraine now, and everybody, they are telling him that he doesn't have the rights. Okay, but you see, the issue is just that anything America have in mind to do, they will do it, and nobody can question them. Or the European, they do it, nobody can question them. They actually invented Libya, and they killed Gaddafi. Till today, Libya is no longer the way it is. It happened in Iraq, and the country is no longer the way it is today as well. So now, as an African leaders, as the all European leaders, you guys have to make use of your brain and your sense. I know what is happening between Russia and Ukraine is just a political problems as well, and which they are trying to invent. They're telling them that this thing should not do this. Just the way the world power do invent other Arab countries, right? The American invented and said this thing, we don't want it, that they can just come in anytime as well, and nobody talks. But now between Ukraine and Russia, I just want to beg the Russian president, I want to beg the Ukraine president, if there's anything you guys have to come together to agree, just better have that kind of solidarity between yourselves as well, to make sure that you agree with each other just to stop this war, because the war is not actually affecting the rich people. It's actually affecting poor people more than the rich people. But the problem is just that to all African leaders that want to put mouth on this issue, you guys need to go and sit down and think very well, because I don't sure whether any of the African leaders have their freedom now. None of them have their freedom. So we are under that what do you call it? We are still under that event. People, the white people, are still inventing a country anytime they feel like most of the top properties and investment in Africa is still owned by these people, but it's still our property. But they are owned by all these top people, and we don't talk, we don't do anything. The leaders are just keeping quiet, and this thing has been going years to years, time to time as well. So nobody really care about it. But issue of Ukraine now, I've seen a lot of leaders stood up, all the Europeans stood up, another one stood up. They don't want war. This one, why did they invent the country? Why this one? Why this one? Why this one? These are why that we all African leaders need to start giving why this one, why this one? Why are the Francophone countries still using French currencies? Why are they still making use of French currencies? These are the things that you need to understand about financial histories of Africa, which we are still under oppression from our colonized what do you call them? There's people that colonize most of the African countries where we are still under their operations. Well, these are the things that I just want everybody to understand, especially to the Africans leader, especially to everybody that is watching us right now. So there are a lot of things that we need to learn from what is actually going on right now in Russia and Ukraine as well. So I'm just praying that the war will not go more than the way it is now. But unfortunately, I don't want us to have this mentality, because I find that most of the war that actually escalated now in the world actually was more invented by the American, because when America came into some issues, well, the issue might no longer the way it is as well. So we have to be very careful. We have to be very mindful, especially to all the European. We have to be very careful. All the NATO, you have to be very careful, because what Putin is planning if the other country in the world support or join Ukraine, that it will be something else as well. So please, let's every individual, every country, every leader try to hold your side of your country, and you have to be very mindful how you put mouth between this war between Russia and Ukraine. I believe that there should be some of the things we have to look into, and very, very important to the Africans as well. So all that sense for you to know, you guys having your right, your real freedom, you have your right freedom, or other people are still dictating for you guys how to live or how to rule your country, or how to control your economy. Correct. I was watching news when the army take over from Mali, right? And the the African Union, the guys that give sanction because of what? Did they fight in the country? There was no war in the country, but the military took over because of the way of the government, the rule of the government, or the attitude of the government were not actually pleased by the people, right? So the people actually, by the presence of the military, coming back to take over from their present government as well, and the African Union said they give sanctions. And these are things that we have to eradicate some of these things away from our natures in Africa, because you see, Ukraine stood on themselves. They stand, not that they actually. I know the other country are the one that are pushing, want to help them. They stood and they defend. They are still defending their country. I know they are very small country as well, but the capability to stand as a person to speak for their right is very important. But I don't see any African leader that have that ability to do that. So these are the words for you people. So please, let's actually be careful how we're going to judge this issue between Ukraine and Russia as well. It's only